Hello there and welcome. I'm glad you're here. Wherever you've found yourself tonight, in a quiet bedroom on a long trip, or simply seeking a companionable voice, this little corner of time is for you. We'll take it slowly with no rush, no demands, just a gentle unfolding of thought. Tonight's story will not be hurried. It will drift, it will pause, and it will make space for you to relax as you listen. The title we've chosen is simple, but it carries a vast weight of imagination. What was Earth like during the Age of Dinosaurs? Perhaps you've pictured this before in childhood books or museum halls, skeletons, towering jaws, gaping tails, sweeping through stone. But we're not here for spectacle. We're here for something quieter, more immersive. A world-building exercise for the mind where curiosity strolls at the pace of breath and science offers a calm rhythm instead of a lecture. So let us first create a space. Wherever you are, let your shoulders drop just a little. Notice the air around you, warm or cool or somewhere in between. Hear the faint hum of something nearby, perhaps a fan, a car outside, or only the soft pulse of silence. These two are part of our setting anchors in the present moment, so that as we drift backward in imagination, you can remain comfortable here and now. The Age of Dinosaurs, the Mesozoic era, is not just a word from textbooks. It is a span of deep time, a stretch of history so immense that our human calendars are almost useless against it. The dinosaurs lived for over 160 million years. To put that in perspective, humans like us have been around for maybe 3,000,000 years. Civilizations, cities, everything we call history fits into only a few thousand. Compared to the dinosaurs, our time is a flicker, a candle flame against a sunrise. But let's not get lost in numbers. Tonight isn't about data. It's about atmosphere. Imagine that your mind is stepping into a theater of the Earth's past. The curtains are drawn back slowly, not with trumpets or clashing cymbals, but with a soft rustle. What you see is not just dinosaurs, though they will appear. What you see is a whole world alive with forests that smelled different than ours, oceans that carried strange rhythms, skies that echoed with calls long vanished. Before we go further, take a moment to picture your own breathing. In and out. Each breath a reminder that you are part of Earth's story too. The same air that passes through your lungs carries whispers of oxygen first made by ancient plants. Some of the molecules you breathe tonight may once have swirled above a Jurassic swamp. Deep time is not just behind us. It is around us, circulating. In this sense, you are already connected to the dinosaurs' world, whether you realize it or not. And so our journey tonight is less about entering a strange place and more about remembering that we already belong to it. The Age of Dinosaurs is not just a chapter locked away in stone. It is a foundation beneath our feet, a layer in the grand story that continues to unfold. By walking into it gently, by imagining it in detail, we also learn something about our own moment, our own fragile blink of existence. Let's make this comfortable. You might be curled up under a blanket, the room dim, the world outside fading. If you like, close your eyes and allow the words to be pictures. No effort required. No test at the end. Just the act of listening itself. Think of this as a bedtime story, except instead of fairy tale castles, we will wander through ancient forests, stand on prehistoric shores and look up at skies where wings larger than sailboats once drifted. There's something soothing about remembering that the world is older than us, older than our troubles, older than our anxieties. Whatever weighs on your mind tonight, it is tiny compared to the 180 million years of the Mesozoic. The Earth has carried so many stories before us, and it will carry so many after. This thought doesn't make our lives less valuable, it makes them precious. We are a momentary bloom in a garden that has been tended for eons. As we begin this exploration, you might notice a paradox. Dinosaurs are often presented as dramatic. The clash of predators, the crash of meteor, impacts the violence of extinction. And yet when we slow down and look carefully, the Age of Dinosaurs was not one long roar. It was mostly calm. Millions upon millions of years of forests growing quietly, oceans rolling steadily, creatures living, eating, breeding, and dying in rhythms that became ordinary. Catastrophe came only rarely. Most of the time, Earth was simply alive, breathing in its slow geological way. Think of this. If you were to stand in a Jurassic forest at dusk, you might hear insects, buzzing leaves, rustling perhaps, the distant call of some creature. But the dominant sound would be the same as it is tonight, the wind in the trees, the silence of twilight settling. Dinosaurs were part of that silence, not apart from it. They were ordinary in their own time, just as we are ordinary in ours. And so, in this opening chapter of our journey, let's hold a mood, soft curiosity, gentle wonder, a sense that we are not racing to answers but strolling through possibilities. We'll follow a thread. How did the world look, smell, and feel in the age of dinosaurs? Not only through fossils and research, but through imagination carefully guided by science. We will not hurry. We will not insist. We will simply explore together. Before we close this first step, let me ask you something. Where are you right now? Are you listening late at night, letting your body sink deeper into rest? Are you on a long drive watching headlights flicker on the road ahead? Or are you listening in the middle of the day, carving out a small sanctuary of slowness in an otherwise busy schedule? Wherever you are, know that you're welcome here. This space is built for you. And if this gentle pace feels right, if the thought of exploring Earth's distant past in a quiet, thoughtful way appeals to you, I'd be grateful if you offered a like or perhaps subscribed, so that others searching for a calm corner might also find it. This is not just a story for you and me. It is a shared space, a gathering of listeners across time zones, across distances, joined by nothing more than curiosity and a willingness to wonder. So let's step forward. The curtains are drawn, the stage is set. Ahead of us lies the age of dinosaurs, not as a spectacle of roars and teeth, but as a living world of forests, seas, skies, and creatures ordinary and extraordinary. Together we'll wander there slowly, letting the picture grow in layers. For now, take another deep breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. Feel the weight of your body resting where it is. Let the day behind you fade. It's a question that has hovered in our collective imagination for centuries. Museums try to answer it with towering skeletons, artists paint sweeping landscapes, and movies roar with special effects. But tonight we're not chasing spectacle. We are after something slower, something softer, not the shock of dinosaurs, but the texture of their world. When we ask what Earth was like, we're asking about the air itself, the feel of the ground beneath your feet, the horizon you'd see if you stood there. And maybe the question is less about facts and more about presence. Could you, just for a moment, imagine yourself in that ancient time, not as a scientist armed with measurements, but as a traveler with only your senses? What would you hear when the wind shifted? How would twilight look without flowers blooming? Without birds singing, but with other sounds and scents entirely? These questions pull us inward into a kind of gentle wondering that is not about answers, but about opening the mind. When we frame a question this way, it becomes something more than science. It becomes an invitation. What if the world beneath your feet tonight is only the newest layer of a story that began hundreds of millions of years ago? What if your neighborhood, your street, your bed, all of it rests on ground that once held forests of cycads, herds of strange reptilian creatures, and oceans filled with ammonites, drifting like floating lanterns? The central question is not simply dinosaurs, yes or no. It is, what did it mean to live in that world? We may never know in detail, but imagining it allows us to stretch beyond the narrow comfort of our own era. It reminds us that the present is temporary, that our familiar sky is just one version of many that Earth has worn. Now, let's pause for a breath. In and out. As your breath settles, notice the rhythm of the question itself. It is not urgent. It doesn't demand an answer. It lingers like a distant horizon you can see but never quite reach. That's the beauty of it. Some questions are not meant to be solved. They are meant to be lived with gently, like a background hum that makes the world feel larger. Of course, science does give us glimpses. Fossils tell us of climates warmer than today, of continents joined in vast shapes, of seas that covered lands we now call home. But even the most detailed study can only give outlines. The colors, the sounds, the moods, they are gone. All that remains is stone and the imagination we use to animate it. which is why this question is so powerful. It's not just about what we know, but what we can feel when we step into deep time. Think of a child who first sees a fossil. To them, it isn't a data point, it's a window. The child looks and asks, "What was the world like when this creature was alive?" That question is the same one we're holding tonight. And like the child, we don't need to rush. We can let wonder itself be the answer, at least for now. There's also something humbling in this central question. If Earth could sustain life so grand, so different for so long, what does that say about us? We are new here. Our entire existence fits into the last blink of Earth's long day. When we ask about the age of dinosaurs, we're also asking, are we just another chapter, a temporary flourish before the page turns again? And yet there's comfort in that thought. Dinosaurs were once ordinary. They woke, they fed, they raised their young. They were part of ecosystems that ticked along in balance. Their grandeur is obvious to us now, but in their own time they were simply neighbors on the same Earth, living out lives that felt as normal to them as ours feel to us. The question, what was Earth like, is also the question, what does it mean to be ordinary in an extraordinary time? Imagine standing on a vast plain millions of years ago. The horizon is wide. The air is thicker with oxygen, humid, carrying the smell of ferns. Somewhere in the distance, a herd of long-necked dinosaurs moves slowly their footsteps, sending vibrations through the ground. You don't need to know their species name. You only need to feel the scale of the place, the strangeness of the life around you, and the realization that this too was Earth. The same Earth, only dressed in a different costume. That is the essence of the central question. This is not another planet, not a fantasy realm. It is home, our home. Changed, unrecognizable, yet still the same sphere drifting through space. When we ask what Earth was like, we're really asking, what can this planet become? If it has been so many things before, what might it be after us? Take another breath, in and out. Let that thought settle. The Earth does not belong to us alone. We are one note in a symphony that began long before we joined. The dinosaurs had their music too, a rhythm we can only faintly hear now. By leaning into the question, we place ourselves back in the orchestra of time, reminded that silence is as much a part of the song as sound. So tonight, let the question stay with you. What was Earth like during the age of dinosaurs? Don't hurry to answer it. Instead, let it soften your perspective, as if the walls of your room are stretching outward until they dissolve into forests and seas long gone. Your body is still here safe resting, but your imagination is free to wander. This is the gift of such a question. It asks nothing of you but attention, and in giving that you find yourself part of something larger, something older, something that will continue long after. As we leave this section, remember the central question is not a riddle with a solution. It is an invitation to look, to listen, to feel, and in that act perhaps you are already closer to the world of dinosaurs than you think. Before we wander too far into deep time, let's pause for a different kind of step, one that turns inward, not backward. Because this journey isn't only about dinosaurs or continents drifting, it's also about you, the listener, here in this moment. So let me ask you gently, where are you listening from right now? Maybe you're in bed already, curled beneath a blanket. The lights are dim, your phone screen is the last glow of the day, and you've pressed play hoping that words will carry you into rest. Or perhaps you're in a quiet living room, a mug of tea cooling nearby, the sounds of the outside world muffled by closed windows. You might even be listening while traveling on a bus, or a train, headphones shielding you in a small pocket of calm. Wherever you are, notice it for a moment, the surface beneath you, the temperature of the air, the small background noises that come and go. All of these details are part of your setting, just as much as ferns, rivers, and volcanoes were part of the dinosaurs' setting. Every age has its ordinary textures, and tonight your textures are part of this story too. Now consider this. The dinosaurs never heard the hum of electricity, never felt the softness of cotton sheets, never saw the glow of city lights, and yet if they could somehow have looked forward through time, they might have been just as fascinated by our world as we are by theirs. The central connection here is that every creature lives inside its own normal. For dinosaurs, the thunder of massive footsteps was ordinary. For us, the buzz of a refrigerator is. By noticing your own present right here, right now, you build a bridge to the past. You remind yourself that the age of dinosaurs was not an endless spectacle, but a daily life full of small familiarities. Let's take a breath together, in and out. That simple rhythm ties us not only to each other in this moment, but to every breathing creature that has ever lived. Dinosaurs inhaled oxygen from the same atmosphere that cradles us now. The molecules may have shifted, cycled, been taken up by plants, and released again, but the air is continuous. The breath in your chest tonight carries echoes of a Jurassic dawn. That thought alone is a soft reminder that the line between then and now is not as solid as it seems. And because this space is not just about history, but also about calm, let me gently invite you, only if you feel like it, to make this part of your routine. If these slow wanderings help you rest, if they make the day a little lighter, you might consider pressing like or subscribing. Not as a task, not as a demand, but as a way of keeping this little corner alive, so others who need calm might also find it. Think of it like leaving a lamp on in the window. Someone else, somewhere in the world, might see that glow and step inside. In this way, you're not only listening, you're participating in a quiet community of wanderers, people who want to explore history without rush, who prefer their science wrapped in soft curiosity rather than noise. And while you rest, imagine this community scattered across the planet. Someone in a city apartment high above the street. Someone in a farmhouse far from neighbors. Someone awake in the middle of the night on the other side of the world. Their day just beginning while yours is closing. We are all linked by these shared questions, these shared breaths, carried on the same turning earth. There's something comforting about that, isn't there? The dinosaurs once roamed a single supercontinent, Pangaea, where distant lands were joined. Tonight, we are joined not by geology but by sound waves, tiny vibrations carrying across cables and air. Still, the effect is the same. We are less alone than we thought. Pause again and notice, are your eyes heavier than when we began? Is your body sinking just a little deeper into the chair, the bed, the seat where you rest? That's good. That means the words are doing their job. They are not here to jolt you awake, but to carry you gently into slowness. And if your mind drifts, that's fine too. Maybe you'll imagine a dinosaur moving through a forest. Maybe you'll picture waves lapping against a prehistoric shore. Or maybe you'll drift into thoughts of your own life, the errands tomorrow, the memories of today. All of it belongs. This isn't a classroom. You don't have to take notes. The story will be here whether you follow every detail or not. The real invitation is simply to stay with the feeling, the curiosity, the calm, the soft stretching of imagination. That is enough. So before we close this personal moment, let's return once more to breath. In, hold it for a second, and out. With each cycle, feel your connection not only to this present room, but to the earth itself, vast and old, spinning steadily as it has spun through every age. Dinosaurs breathed here. Ancient forests exhaled here. Oceans foamed and calmed here. And now you breathe here too. That is the personal connection. You are not outside the story of Earth. You are inside it. A character, a participant, a note in its long song. As we move forward into the age of dinosaurs, carry that awareness with you. The past is not a distant museum. It is a relative, a neighbor, and you, in this quiet hour, are part of its living memory. And if you'd like to keep traveling together, just remember you can always return. Like a path through a familiar forest, this place will be waiting, ready to welcome you back whenever you need to slow down. When we talk about the age of dinosaurs, we are not talking about a moment. We are talking about a stretch of time so long that our human sense of years almost collapses under its weight. To understand it, we need to step back, far back into what scientists call deep time. Deep time is not like ordinary time. Ordinary time is your clock, your calendar, the rhythm of your days and nights. Deep time is the Earth's time. It is the slow movement of continents, the rise and fall of oceans, the cycles of climate that play out over millions of years. When we try to picture it, our minds strain because we are creatures of short spans. A lifetime for us is decades. A dynasty is centuries. A civilization might last a few thousand years. The dinosaurs lived across 160 million. Let's put that in perspective. Imagine shrinking Earth's history into a single day 24 hours long. Life first appears in the morning, simple cells floating in ancient seas. By late evening around 1030 p.m., the first dinosaurs step onto the stage. They dominate the rest of the evening through the late show and into the small hours. Humans, we arrive at 1159 p.m. and a few seconds. Everything we call history, the pyramids, the empires, the books and machines, happens in less than the last blink before midnight. That is deep time. It humbles us, but it also soothes us, because it reminds us that change is constant. Whatever troubles you carried into tonight, whatever anxieties weigh on your heart, they are smaller than a grain of sand compared to the sweep of geological ages. The Earth has endured ice and fire extinctions and rebirths, and still it turns. Now let's anchor ourselves within this vastness. The Age of Dinosaurs is what geologists call the Mesozoic era, divided into three great periods: Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. Each one lasted tens of millions of years, long enough for whole mountain ranges to rise and crumble, long enough for oceans to open and close. Within each life, experimented, failed, tried again, and flourished in forms both familiar and strange. If you stood at the dawn of the Triassic, the world would have looked bare and recovering, just before Earth had suffered a catastrophic extinction that wiped away most of life. Forests were sparse climates, unstable, but within a few million years, new forms emerged, small reptiles that would one day give rise to the great dinosaurs. Imagine that. What we call their golden age was born out of recovery resilience after disaster. Move forward to the Jurassic and the picture changes. The supercontinent Pangaea has begun to split oceans, widen climates, grow wetter in some places, drier in others. This is the world most people imagine when they hear dinosaurs, towering sauropods, long-necked and massive, wandering through conifer forests. Pterosaurs glide overhead. Seas are alive with ichthyosaurs, dolphin-shaped reptiles that dart after schools of fish. The planet feels vibrant, diverse, lush. Then comes the Cretaceous, the longest and perhaps most complex chapter. Flowering plants appear for the first time, changing ecosystems forever. Dinosaurs adapt into new forms: duck-billed herds, horned giants, swift predators. The seas are ruled by mosasaurs, immense marine reptiles with jaws like traps. It is a world at its peak of experimentation, busy, noisy, alive. And then, at its end, comes silence, the great extinction that sweeps the stage clean once more. From beginning to end, the Mesozoic lasted nearly 180 million years. To compare, modern humans have existed for 3,000,000. That means the dinosaurs lived for more than 500 times longer than we have. Let that number rest for a moment. Imagine repeating your entire lifetime, not once, not twice, but hundreds of times over, and still not reaching the length of the dinosaurs' reign. It makes you wonder, what does permanence really mean? We sometimes think of our buildings, our technologies, even our worries as solid, lasting. But deep time tells us otherwise. Everything shifts, everything changes. The very mountains we see today will one day crumble into the sea. To live with deep time is to learn humility, but also to learn peace, because if everything changes, then our burdens too will pass. Now, as you listen, let yourself picture this sweep of time, not as numbers, but as landscapes sliding gently across your imagination. See Pangaea as a vast plain, stretching farther than any horizon. Watch it break slowly into pieces that drift apart, like rafts. Picture forests, rising seas, flooding deserts, spreading rivers, carving valleys that no one will ever walk again. Hear the quiet rhythm of millions of years, not rushing, just unfolding. Take another breath here, in and out. Deep time is not something to conquer. It is something to rest inside. Just as you rest tonight in your room, Earth has been resting, breathing, turning for billions of years. You are part of that cycle. You are a brief but beautiful echo in its song. And here is the gift of deep time. It allows us to see the Age of Dinosaurs not as a spectacle frozen in stone, but as a living, ordinary era. Dinosaurs were not aware of their grandeur. They lived, grazed, hunted, raised young, and slept beneath skies that changed slowly. To them, life was as normal as ours is to us. That is the heart of deep time. It tells us that every age, no matter how strange to others, feels natural to those living it. So when we ask, what was Earth like during the Age of Dinosaurs? Deep time gives us context. It was not just one world, but many layered and shifting. It was forests and deserts, seas and mountains, heat and calm. It was long enough for countless generations to live and die, never knowing they were part of something that would one day become legend. As you drift further into this thought, let the vastness itself be comforting. Imagine that your worries are like tiny fossils soon to be buried by layers of calmer stone. In the slow breathing of the earth, there is always renewal. The dinosaurs came, thrived, and passed. And still the earth continued. And so will we. To understand the Age of Dinosaurs, we need to begin with the stage on which they lived. Not the museum displays we know today, but the real theatre of stone, air, and sea. Dinosaurs were not floating in an empty world. They were shaped, guided, and sustained by Earth's geology and climate. If we want to picture their lives, we must first picture the ground beneath their feet, the sky above their heads, and the atmosphere that carried every breath they took. Imagine stepping outside, but not into your own neighborhood. Step instead onto the supercontinent of Pangaea. At the dawn of the Mesozoic era, stretching across most of the globe, it was a single colossal landmass. No familiar outlines of continents, no Atlantic Ocean between the Americas and Africa. Instead, one vast expanse of land surrounded by a single global sea. From horizon to horizon, the scale would have been overwhelming. But Pangaea was not still. Beneath it, Earth's tectonic plates moved like rafts on molten rock. Over millions of years, the supercontinent began to crack and drift apart. Rifts opened, seas seeped in, mountain ranges rose where plates collided. By the middle and late Mesozoic, Pangaea was breaking into the continents we now recognize. This slow rearrangement reshaped climates, ocean currents, and habitats. The climate itself was different from ours. The Mesozoic was generally warmer greenhouse conditions with higher levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. There were no polar ice caps as we know them. Instead, the poles were often lush with forests, though bathed in long months of light and long months of darkness. Imagine a world where even the far north could be home to dinosaurs, where temperatures were stable enough that reptiles thrived almost everywhere. Rainfall, too, was uneven. Early in the Triassic, vast deserts stretched across the heart of Pangaea. Sand dunes rolled for hundreds of miles. Rain fell mostly at the edges where seas touched land. Later, as continents split and seas deepened, new coastlines appeared, inviting moisture inland. Forests expanded, rivers spread, swamps flourished. By the Cretaceous, flowering plants had begun to transform the air with new scents, new colors, and new pollen carried on the wind. If you could stand in that world, the air would have felt thicker, warmer, more humid in many places. Oxygen levels shifted across ages, sometimes lower than today, sometimes higher. In certain periods, more oxygen meant that insects grew larger, their bodies supported by the denser air. Dragonflies with wingspans as wide as your arm. Beetles gleaming like coins in the sun, big enough to notice even from a distance. The geology added drama. Volcanoes were common, reshaping landscapes with fire and ash. Picture eruptions staining the sky, red lava carving new valleys, ash settling over forests like grey snow. Yet these same volcanoes enriched soils, feeding plant life that would support entire ecosystems. Earth was both destroyer and provider, as it always has been. Seas also played their role. As continents drifted apart, shallow inland seas formed, covering vast stretches of land. Imagine standing on a shoreline where the water extended not just to the horizon but far into the interior of a continent. These shallow seas were nurseries for marine reptiles, fish, and invertebrates. They also moderated climates, spreading warmth and moisture. In this way, oceans and land were always in dialogue, shaping life together. The sky overhead was not empty. Clouds carried the same water cycle we know. evaporation, condensation, rain. But the balance of gases was different. Higher carbon dioxide meant warmer average temperatures, fewer sharp winters. Imagine long-growing seasons, plants unrolling fronds year after year in rhythms steady and unhurried. This stability gave dinosaurs the time and space to grow large, to dominate ecosystems for millions upon millions of years. All of this, the plates, the seas, the air, formed the stage. Without it, the dinosaurs could not have existed. Sometimes we imagine them as actors alone, but they were part of a choreography far bigger. Their size, their shapes, their survival, all were answers to the Earth they lived on. Let's pause here with a breath. In and out. As you breathe, think of how the Earth breathes two carbons cycling through air and stone, oxygen rising from plants, water evaporating and returning as rain. The same processes you depend on tonight were already working in the age of dinosaurs. The air you breathe now may carry molecules once exhaled by a sauropod in a Jurassic forest. The water in your glass may have rained on the back of a triceratops millions of years ago. Deep time folds in on itself this way, reminding us that nothing is ever truly gone. This is why geology and climate matter. They are not background details. They are the canvas and the paint. They decide what kinds of creatures thrive, how they live, and where they wander. When we ask what Earth was like in the age of dinosaurs, the answer is not just there were dinosaurs. The answer is there was a planet restless and alive that made space for them. So as you rest tonight, hold this picture softly in your mind, a world without our familiar continents, without ice caps, with warmth and moisture wrapping much of the globe. A world of volcanoes, reshaping valleys of inland seas, shimmering in the sun of forests stretching to the poles. This was Earth's stage, and on it, the dinosaurs were only one act, though a long and extraordinary one. When people first began finding fossils long before the word dinosaur was coined in the 19th century, they didn't have the language of geology or paleontology. They had only their eyes, their imagination, and their stories. And so the bones of giants became something else. Myths, legends, echoes of creatures too large to be ordinary. Imagine a shepherd in ancient Greece, stumbling upon a massive femur jutting from a hillside. To him, it was not the leg bone of a reptile from deep time. It was proof of heroes or perhaps titans. In Chinese valleys, when farmers uncovered long fossilized vertebrae, they called them dragon bones, and even ground them into powders used as medicine. In North America, some indigenous cultures wove stories of thunderbirds and giant beasts from the land, giving meaning to bones they encountered in the rock. This is one of the fascinating threads that ties human imagination to the age of dinosaurs. Though we arrived millions of years after the last dinosaur fell, the remnants they left still shaped our sense of wonder. For ancient peoples, these fossils were not curiosities for museum glass cases, they were living symbols. They explained storms, mountains, even morality. They were reminders that the earth holds secrets and that we walk among the remains of something immense. And perhaps they were right in ways they didn't know. Dinosaurs did become dragons in the human mind, not because they literally breathed fire, but because they embodied the scale of the unknown. A dragon is a way of saying once there were creatures too big to fit into our ordinary world. That instinct is not wrong. Pause here for a moment. Consider how myths operate. They are not lies. They are stories that grow where evidence is thin. They preserve feelings: awe at a giant bone, fear at the idea of monsters beneath the hills, reverence for the forces of nature. Myths are a bridge between the seen and the unseen, between fact and imagination. In that sense, they are cousins of science, reaching for explanation when knowledge is incomplete. If you close your eyes, you can imagine what it must have been like to stumble upon such a bone without context. You place your hand on the smooth fossil surface, cold from the earth, larger than any creature you've ever seen. Your mind races. What kind of beast could this have been? Did it still roam somewhere unseen? Was it a warning from the gods, or a memory of a world before ours? The bone is silent, but your imagination is not. These myths also tell us something about ourselves. We humans are pattern makers. When we find fragments, we build stories to fill the gaps. The age of dinosaurs, though long past, continues to live in our cultural imagination because it answers a deep need to remind us that we are small, that the world has held giants before and may again. Think of how often our stories still return to dinosaurs, disguised or not. In fairy tales, dragons guard treasures and kingdoms. In modern films, dinosaurs roam jungles brought back by science. In comics and games, massive reptilian beasts echo the same primal fascination. We cannot seem to let go of them, and maybe that is because they are woven into the earth itself. Every mountain that holds a fossil is a whisper. We were here first. Now let's take a breath together. In and out. As your breath slows, picture a landscape thousands of years ago where a traveler finds a fossilized skull. To them, it is not a relic of deep time, but a creature still alive in imagination. They might tell their children stories of monsters in the hills, of battles fought by heroes, of warnings to respect the land. In this way, dinosaurs lived on not only in stone but in culture. There's a lesson here. Even when science arrived with its tools and names, Jurassic, Cretaceous, Sauropod, Theropod, the myths didn't vanish. They changed shape. They became metaphors for power, for danger, for survival. When we call something a dinosaur today, we often mean something massive, outdated, or unmovable. The word still carries weight, just as dragon once did. So what does this tell us about what Earth was like during the Age of Dinosaurs? It tells us that their presence was so immense that echoes of it survived millions of years, carried forward not by fossils alone but by imagination. It suggests that the Earth itself imprints memory not only in rocks but in human stories. Myths are fossils of the mind, shaped by encounters with bones, mountains, and mysteries. And perhaps in a gentle way, this is how we continue to live with dinosaurs. Not as neighbors in forests, but as companions in imagination. They inhabit our bedtime stories, our art, our fears and hopes. They remind us that life is not small, that it has unfolded on scales we can barely hold. Let's breathe again, in and out. As you listen, feel how your own mind holds fragments of story, just as ancient peoples did. You do not need every detail to imagine. A shadow is enough to create a monster. A single bone is enough to conjure a dragon. A quiet question is enough to open the vast world of the past. And in that sense, asking, what was Earth like during the Age of Dinosaurs, is not so different from the old myths. It is our way of filling the silence of deep time with wonder. Science guides us, yes, but imagination carries us. Without it, bones are just stone. With it, they are giants walking again. When we think of dinosaurs, our minds often leap straight to the giants, the towering long necks, the horned faces, the predators with teeth like knives. But to understand their world, we need to look more closely at the ecosystems that held them. Because dinosaurs, no matter how dramatic, did not live alone. They were part of communities woven into webs of life, as intricate and fragile as those we see today. Let's begin with forests. Imagine standing in a Jurassic woodland. The trees around you are not the flowering oaks or maples you know, but conifers, tall, resin-scented, their needles brushing against the sky. Beneath them grow cycads, palm-like plants, with thick trunks and crowns of stiff leaves. Ferns spread across the ground like green carpets, and horsetails cluster near the water's edge. There are no flowers yet, no buzzing bees. The air smells sharp, resinous, a little unfamiliar. Among these plants move creatures of every scale. Small lizards scurry in the underbrush. Early mammals no larger than mice emerge at night to forage for insects. Dragonflies skim the air above ponds, their wings catching the sun. And in the distance, the steady thud of something larger, a herd of sauropods, long-necked dinosaurs, stretching high into the canopy to strip branches clean. Their movements are slow, deliberate, like ships at sea. Around their legs, smaller dinosaurs pick at fallen leaves and insects stirred by the giant's steps. This is the heart of an ecosystem, not one creature dominating, but many interacting. The sauropods open the canopy, letting sunlight reach the ground. Smaller herbivores graze on the new growth. Predators follow, hunting the weak or the unwary. Scavengers clean up the remains. Insects recycle plant matter, enriching the soil. Everything is connected. Now, shift the scene. Picture the shore of a shallow sea during the Cretaceous period. The water is warm, dotted with shellfish and ammonites, spiral-shelled relatives of squid that drift like lanterns. Beneath the waves, mosasaurs glide, their bodies sleek and powerful jaws, ready to seize fish or even each other. Plesiosaurs with long necks and paddle-like flippers rise for breath before diving again. Above the water, pterosaurs wheel and dive, their wings casting shadows over the surf. On land nearby, herds of hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, gather to feed on vegetation. Their calls echo low and resonant, perhaps to warn of predators, perhaps simply to communicate across the herd. And where there are herds, predators are never far. A tyrannosaur waits at the edge of the forest, patient, conserving its energy for the right moment. This case study reminds us the age of dinosaurs was not just about land. The seas were equally alive, and the skies as well. Earth was busy on every front, filled with niches and roles, each creature fitting into its place. Pause with me here. In and out. Notice how the ecosystem itself feels alive, like a single vast organism. Each creature is a cell, each action, a pulse, each season, a breath. The dinosaurs were not rulers in the way we sometimes imagine. They were participants bound by the same rules of balance that govern life today. Let's consider another scene: the polar forests of the Cretaceous. At that time, the poles were warmer, ice-free, but they still endured months of light, followed by months of darkness. Imagine a forest near the ancient Arctic Circle. Conifers stand tall, their trunks pale in the long twilight. Dinosaurs adapted to this unusual rhythm move among them. Some may have hibernated or slowed their activity during the dark months. Others foraged constantly during the long summers, storing strength. The polar dinosaurs remind us that even in extremes, life finds a way. What we learn from these ecosystems is simple but profound. Dinosaurs were not isolated marvels. They were bound to plants, to insects, to climate, to geography. They lived in communities just as we do. Their survival depended not only on their own strength, but on the balance of their world. And here is the subtle beauty. Much of that balance echoes into our time. The forests they walked in still echo in conifers and ferns we see today. The seas still carry Ammonites' cousins, the squid and the octopus. Birds overhead are living reminders, descendants of small feathered dinosaurs that once flitted through Cretaceous branches. The ecosystem of the past is not gone entirely. It is folded into the present like old notes woven into a new song. Take another breath. In and out. Let this thought settle. When you watch a bird in flight, you are watching the age of dinosaurs continue. When you walk through a pine forest, you are walking through echoes of their world. The ecosystems may have changed, but the threads are unbroken. And so the case studies remind us, Earth during the age of dinosaurs was not alien. It was a living, breathing planet filled with relationships, rivalries, and rhythms. To ask what it was like is to ask what it means to be alive within a web where every action ripples outward. As you rest tonight, carry that image. Herds moving across plains, predators waiting in shadow, insects, humming unseen seas, shimmering with reptiles, skies wheeling with wings. Not chaos, but connection. Not spectacle, but balance. This was Earth's secret. It did not build dinosaurs in isolation. It built worlds around them. When we wander back into the age of dinosaurs, we are not only looking at fossils and landscapes, we are also quietly looking at ourselves. Because every time we ask what was Earth like, then we are also asking, what does it mean for us here and now? This is where science and philosophy begin to meet, where facts about ancient reptiles become mirrors for human meaning. Let's pause for a gentle thought. The dinosaurs lived for over 160 million years. Humans in our current form have been here for perhaps 3,000,000. Civilizations with writing and cities for only about 5,000. Compared to them, we are younger than a single leaf on a single branch of Earth's tree. And yet here we are wondering about them. What does that say about us? Perhaps it says that curiosity itself is our gift. Dinosaurs did not need to wonder about deep time. They lived inside it unaware. We, however, carry a strange consciousness. an ability to see beyond our own lifetimes, to imagine what came before and what might come after. That ability gives us humility, but also a kind of responsibility. Think of it this way: if the Earth can hold creatures as grand as dinosaurs, and if it can hold creatures as fleeting as us, then maybe the real meaning is not in which species dominates, but in how we recognize our place within the flow. Dinosaurs remind us that greatness is temporary, that dominance does not equal permanence, that every era, no matter how mighty, eventually yields to change. For some, this might feel unsettling. If dinosaurs with their power and longevity could vanish, what hope do we have? But seen from another angle, it can be comforting, because it means that impermanence is not failure, it is simply the rhythm of life on Earth. Dinosaurs passed the torch, and in their absence mammals rose, and eventually we did too. Their ending made space for our beginning. Let's breathe together here, in and out. Notice how your own breath ties you to this thought. Just as air moved through the lungs of dinosaurs, it moves through yours. Continuity through change, that is the lesson. Philosophers have long asked why we are here, why life exists at all. Dinosaurs do not answer that directly, but they remind us that existence itself is remarkable. A planet circling a star, able to sustain forests, seas, creatures of unimaginable size, that is already extraordinary. The fact that we are here now able to reflect upon it is even more so. Consider this gentle question: are we the meaning, or do we give meaning? Perhaps the Earth does not demand that life prove its purpose. Perhaps life itself is the purpose. Dinosaurs were not working toward us. They were simply themselves, and in being themselves, they filled the Earth with story. We too may not need a grand destiny. Perhaps it is enough to live fully in our own brief moment, adding our verse to the long poem of time. When you walk outside and see a bird on a branch, remember that is philosophy in feathers. Birds are living dinosaurs. They are proof that not everything ended. Some lineages continued, adapted, transformed. They show us that endings and beginnings blur. What looks like extinction may also be transition. There is another layer here, our awareness of mortality. Dinosaurs did not know they would one day vanish. We, however, carry that knowledge. We know that species can end, that civilizations can collapse, that even our own lives are finite. This awareness can weigh heavily, but it can also give beauty to the present. To know something is temporary makes it precious. Imagine standing in a late Cretaceous meadow, the air-warm flowers just beginning to spread across the landscape. A herd of hadrosaurs grazes their calls low and resonant. A predator waits at the forest edge. Above, pterosaurs wheel in the sky. None of them know this world will end. They live fully in their moment. We who look back can see both the beauty and the fragility. Philosophy asks us to hold both at once, to cherish even as we accept impermanence. Take another breath, in and out. As you settle deeper into this thought, let it soften the edges of your day. Whatever worries linger, remember they are part of a flow much larger than you. Like the dinosaurs, you exist inside a chapter you cannot control. Your task is not to write the ending, but to live the paragraph you're given. This is perhaps the most profound human meaning of the dinosaurs. They remind us that we are not the whole story. We are a chapter, a brief one, but even a brief chapter can be luminous. Even a short melody can change the song. So when you lie in bed tonight, drifting towards sleep, carry this thought gently. You are part of Earth's deep story. You are connected to creatures long gone and to those yet to come. You are not permanent, but you are real, and your presence matters in ways you may never measure. Dinosaurs remind us of humility, but also of wonder that existence itself, however fleeting, is enough. And so, the philosophy of dinosaurs is not about teeth and bones. It is about time, fragility, and meaning. It is about recognizing that life is not measured in permanence, but in presence. That our task is not to last forever, but to live fully in the moment we are given. So far we have walked through science and philosophy, through continents drifting and forests rising. But now let us pause again and bring the journey closer to you. Because to truly imagine the age of dinosaurs, we do not need only facts or dates. We need our senses. We need the small anchors of personal experience, the way the air feels, the way sound carries at night, the way memory lingers in unexpected details. Take a moment wherever you are. Perhaps you hear the hum of your refrigerator. Perhaps it is the faint rattle of traffic outside your window. Maybe it is silence broken only by your breath. These are not just background noises. They are your present ecosystem. And if you lean into them, you can use them as bridges to the past. Imagine that hum of the refrigerator as the low call of a hadrosaur echoing across a Cretaceous wetland. Imagine the cars outside as the distant movement of a herd footsteps pressing into damp earth. Imagine the silence itself as the hush of a Triassic desert at dusk, where the wind carries sand across dunes that stretch for miles. Your senses tonight, though shaped by modern life, are capable of carrying you backward gently into deep time. Memory works the same way. Think of the last time you stood beneath tall trees, maybe a pine forest with needles whispering in the wind. Do you remember? The smell, sharp, resinous, almost sweet. That smell has not changed in hundreds of millions of years. Dinosaurs too would have breathed. It would have brushed their hides against bark that oozed the same sticky sap. Your memory of that scent is a bridge to them. Or think of rain. The sound of it tapping against your window tonight is not different from the sound it made on Jurassic leaves. Close your eyes and imagine the rain falling on cycads, on ferns taller than you, on the backs of sauropods lifting their long necks to sniff the air. The rain has always fallen, and in that sense you already know the dinosaur's world. You have heard its music. Let's pause for breath. In and out. As you breathe, notice the air filling your lungs, cool or warm depending on your room. That same act, that same rhythm ties you to every creature that has ever lived. Dinosaurs did not know the science of respiration, but they knew the necessity of breath, just as you do. Each inhale you take tonight is a quiet echo of theirs. There is a softness in realizing that the extraordinary can be reached through the ordinary. You don't need to stand in a museum or on an ancient fossil bed. You only need to listen to the hum around you, to remember the feel of rain, to notice the smell of trees. These are sensory threads, weaving the present to the deep past. And perhaps there is something comforting in that. The age of dinosaurs can feel impossibly distant, unreachable. But when you notice that the pine in your park carries the same fragrance as a Jurassic forest, or that the rain outside your window carries the same rhythm as rain that fell on a Triceratops, the distance collapses. Deep time folds and you find yourself not outside the story but inside it. This is personal reflection. At its simplest, you are part of Earth. You are not separate from its history. You are its continuation. The same cycles of water, of breath, of growth and decay flow through you. Dinosaurs are not just creatures in stone. They are part of the same fabric you live within tonight. Let's take this deeper. Picture the soft buzz of an insect near your ear in summer. Irritating perhaps, but familiar. In the Cretaceous, insects buzzed too. They landed on leaves, carried pollen, annoyed dinosaurs just as they annoy us. Some even carried diseases, tiny parasites hitching rides on giants. The sound of a buzzing insect tonight is not just nuisance, it is continuity. It is a reminder that the world of dinosaurs still hums beneath our own. Or recall the crunch of gravel under your shoes. That sensation stone shifting under pressure was the same when a theropod's claw pressed into mud, leaving prints that hardened into fossils we see today. The feeling of weight on ground, the sound of movement across soil has always been the same. By noticing your own steps, you can imagine theirs. Even light itself is a connection. The glow of the moon through your window tonight is the same moon that shone on Cretaceous seas. The constellations have shifted, but the silver wash of moonlight is unchanged. Dinosaurs walked beneath it. Pterosaurs glided across it. And tonight it falls on you. The light is ancient and you are sharing it. Pause again. In and out. Let your body settle. Notice how it feels to be still, to let imagination do the walking for you. In this stillness, you are practicing what dinosaurs themselves knew: rest presence. Simply being part of the earth without the need to understand everything. And maybe that is the lesson of sensory reflection. You don't need to grasp the whole sweep of 160 million years. You only need to notice the small things, the rain, the pine, the hum, the moon, and let them remind you that deep time is not gone. It is here layered beneath your own experience. As you drift further into rest tonight, let these connections settle gently into you. Feel the pillow beneath your head as the ground of the earth. Hear the silence as ancient forests whispering. Breathe as dinosaurs breathed. Know that your senses, simple and human, are already doors to the vastness of their world. And so in this moment, you are not only learning about dinosaurs, you are remembering them. You are walking with them, not in body but in spirit, through the shared fabric of Earth itself. Whenever we speak of the age of dinosaurs, it is easy to let imagination drift into certainty. We picture vast forests, herds moving across plains, predators stalking in shadow. Yet science itself reminds us much of what we think we know is inference, reconstruction, and sometimes speculation. Tonight, let us pause with gentleness and explore the opposing views, the questions, doubts, and counterarguments that remind us how fragile our knowledge can be. Consider climate. For decades, textbooks described the Mesozoic as uniformly hot, a global greenhouse with sweltering forests from pole to pole. But newer evidence has suggested something more complex. Some layers of rock show signs of cooler spells, even frost rings in trees that hint at seasonal chill. Could it be that dinosaurs, once imagined as purely tropical, also endured winters? Some paleontologists argue that certain species may have migrated long distances, while others adapted to cold-feathered coats, helping them through long, dark months at the poles. Then there is the matter of color. For years, dinosaurs were drawn as dull reptilian creatures, greens, greys, browns. But discoveries of fossilized feathers suggest they may have been far more colorful. Microscopic structures in those feathers hint at iridescent hues, shimmering like a hummingbird's throat or a magpie's wing. Yet not all scientists agree. Fossil preservation is tricky, and reconstructions are still tentative. Were dinosaurs dazzling rainbows in the forest canopy, or muted shades blending into shadow? The answer may be both or neither. Pause here. In and out. Notice how uncertainty itself feels. Not threatening, but calming, like an open horizon. When we release the need for final answers, we make space for wonder. Even the question of how dinosaurs moved remains debated. Some once believed the great sauropods, giants longer than buses, were too heavy to walk on land, imagining them half submerged in swamps for support. Later evidence showed strong limbs and trackways across solid ground, proving they were walkers, not floaters. But how fast could they move? Some studies suggest lumbering slowness, others hint at surprising bursts of speed. The truth may lie in between, as it often does. And what of their social lives? Were they solitary giants, each fending for itself? Or did they move in herds, care for their young, and communicate with low calls across valleys? Fossil nesting grounds suggest at least some species guarded eggs, and perhaps tended to hatchlings. But whether this was the rule or the exception is still debated. Some paleontologists see family groups. Others caution against assuming too much from limited evidence. Let's breathe again. In and out. Uncertainty, after all, is not absence. It is invitation. The very extinction of dinosaurs, too, holds multiple views. The popular story is the asteroid impact 66 million years ago, sending shockwaves, wildfires, and climate collapse. The evidence is strong: a global layer of iridium, a massive crater in the Yucatan, signs of sudden catastrophe. Yet other voices point to long-term volcanic activity in India, the Deccan Traps, pouring lava and gases into the sky for hundreds of thousands of years. Could it be that both events intertwined volcanoes, weakening ecosystems, the asteroid delivering the final blow? The debate continues. There are even those who remind us that extinction itself is not as absolute as we imagine. After all, birds are dinosaurs too, surviving the catastrophe and carrying their lineage into the present. So when we say the dinosaurs are gone, are we overlooking the sparrow on the fence, the hawk in the sky, the penguin on the ice? An opposing view can sometimes be a correction, nudging us toward a more complete picture. Another gentle counterpoint lies in how we imagine ecosystems. We often describe them as balanced, harmonious, interconnected. And yes, they were. But balance can also mean competition, hunger, and struggle. Some scientists remind us that life in the Mesozoic was not always peaceful. Droughts, storms, disease, and predation would have shaped daily existence. Yet even here the counterpoint carries a lesson: struggle does not erase beauty. Both belong to the same story. Take a slow breath, in and out. Notice how every doubt, every debate softens the picture rather than shattering it. Like a watercolor, painting details blur, but the whole image remains. And then there are the voices outside. Science, those who imagine the age of dinosaurs in myth stories, or even skepticism. Some wonder whether our reconstructions are too human-centered, projecting behaviors that suit our narratives. Others remind us that the fossil record is thin, a fraction of life preserved, and an even smaller fraction discovered. Could there have been creatures we will never know, entire worlds erased without trace? Science admits this possibility. In fact, it embraces it, for humility is part of knowledge. So why linger on these opposing views? Because they remind us that the story of dinosaurs is not finished. It is not a closed book. It is a living dialogue between stone and imagination, evidence and interpretation. To sit with uncertainty is to honor the complexity of the earth. Tonight, as you listen, let this uncertainty soothe rather than unsettle you. Think of it as mist over a landscape. You cannot see every tree, every hill, but the mist itself has beauty. It invites you to slow down, to accept mystery, to let go of the need for total clarity. And in that way, the debates of paleontology mirror our own lives. We rarely know the full picture. We live with fragments we piece together, meaning we imagine what might be. The opposing view is not an enemy, it is a companion reminding us that truth is wide and certainty is rare. So, what was Earth like during the age of dinosaurs? Even here, with gentle counter-arguments, the answer remains vast, varied, mysterious. A place both known and unknown. A place where science and imagination walk together. Close your eyes for a moment if it feels comfortable, and imagine that the room around you begins to fade. The walls soften into mist. The sounds of your present world grow faint, and you find yourself stepping gently into another time. The ground beneath your feet is no longer carpet or tile, but firm earth damp with the memory of last night's rain. You are standing in a forest during the Jurassic period about 150 million years ago. Look upward. The trees tower above you, but they are not the familiar maples or oaks of today. They are conifers, their trunks thick and resin-scented, their branches stretching into a canopy of needles. Some are taller than any building in your town, rising like natural cathedrals. Between them grow cycads, palm-like plants with stiff crowns, and ferns spreading broad fronds across the forest floor. The air carries a sharp tang of pine mixed with the damp green of undergrowth. Breathe in. The air feels different, warmer, heavier, filled with more moisture than you may be used to. Each inhale carries a trace of ancient life, a continuity of breath that connects you across millions of years. As you exhale, imagine the mist of your breath joining the same cycle of air that once moved through the lungs of dinosaurs. Now listen, the forest is not silent. Insects hum around you, their wings catching the faint shafts of light filtering through the trees. Somewhere nearby, the croak of an ancient amphibian echoes from a pool. Then faint but steady comes another sound, the rhythmic thud of footsteps, slow and deliberate like drums rolling through the ground. From behind the trees they emerge a herd of sauropods. Their necks stretch high into the canopy, swaying like cranes as they strip branches clean. Their tails sweep gently behind them, carving arcs through the undergrowth. They move with surprising grace despite their size. To you they are immense, longer than buses, taller than houses, but in their world they are simply grazers, as ordinary as cattle on a meadow today. Stand still. Watch them breathe, watch their sides rise and fall. Hear the low rumble that passes between them, a sound deep enough to feel in your chest. It is communication, perhaps reassurance to the young that wander between their legs, perhaps a warning to keep together. The forest for this moment is theirs. Yet life here is not only giant. Look closer at the ground near your feet. Small lizards dart between roots. Early mammals no bigger than mice scurry through the leaf, litter their tiny noses twitching as they search for insects. Dragonflies with wingspans, the size of your hand, flit through patches of light. A beetle crawls along a fern stem, its shell glinting. The forest is busy, alive at every scale. Pause with me here, in and out. Let yourself feel the rhythm of this imagined place. Now tilt your head back. Above the treetops the sky opens, and for a moment you glimpse movement against the blue. Pterosaurs with wings stretched across elongated fingers glide effortlessly. One swoops low, catching an updraft rising from the warm forest floor. Its cry is sharp, alien, yet strangely familiar, like a gull, translated into another key. The shadow passes over you, and then it rises again, circling high. Everywhere you look, the world feels both strange and familiar. Strange because the creatures are unlike anything you've seen alive. Familiar because the forest itself hums with patterns you know, the scent of pine, the call of insects, the rhythm of water trickling through roots. Deep Time is not a separate planet, it is your planet wearing another costume. Take another breath. Notice how the forest feels less like spectacle and more like home the longer you stand within it. The sauropods are no longer monsters. They are animals. The pterosaurs are not dragons. They are simply flyers, part of the sky's rhythm. The early mammals scurrying beneath ferns are not props. They are survivors, ancestors of creatures that will one day include you. Now close your eyes within the scene and listen again. The wind stirs needles above you, creating a soft, constant hush. A branch cracks as a tail brushes past. A young sauropod bleats, high-pitched, answered by the deeper rumble of its parent. Water drips from leaves into a small pool, sending ripples outward. All of it blends into a music of presence, a lullaby from 150 million years ago. Imagine reaching down and touching the earth. The soil is warm, alive, with roots and insects. Somewhere beneath your hand lies the potential of fossils not yet formed. Millions of years later, those bones will harden into stone, waiting to be discovered. But for now, they are still alive, still moving. You are touching the living earth of the Jurassic. And what does it feel like standing here in imagination? Perhaps it feels humbling to be so small among giants. Perhaps it feels soothing to know that life goes on regardless of who rules the forest. Or perhaps it feels grounding to realize that even in an alien world, the sounds and scents and rhythms are not entirely foreign. As you rest tonight, hold this image softly. A forest of conifers, ferns brushing your legs, a herd of sauropods moving slowly, their breath misting in the warm air, pterosaurs circling above, insects buzzing at the edge of hearing, and you standing quietly unnoticed, but present part of the scene. Let the details fade into your imagination as you drift deeper into calm. The forest does not demand your attention. It simply exists steady and unhurried as the earth has always existed. When we try to imagine the age of dinosaurs, facts and fossils give us outlines. But sometimes to really feel the weight of deep time, we need something else: metaphor, a way of comparing the unimaginable with the familiar. Metaphor is not the same as fact, but it can carry truth in another form. Tonight, let's walk gently into one such metaphor, and then pause to explain why it matters. Picture the earth as a book, not a thin paperback, but a massive volume bound in stone, its pages layered in rock and soil. Each page is not a year or even a century, but millions of years pressed into sediment. To read it, you do not turn paper. You cut into cliffs, you dig into quarries, you drill into cores, and what you find are fragments, sentences in fossil shells, paragraphs in volcanic ash, whole chapters in mass extinctions. In this book, The Age of Dinosaurs is not the whole story. It is a long chapter, yes, but still just a chapter. A stretch of narrative between what came before the strange experiments of the Permian and Triassic, and what came after the rise of mammals and eventually us. Now pause. In and out. Imagine yourself as a reader holding this enormous book. The chapter of the dinosaurs is richly illustrated: bones, teeth, tracks, nests. But it is also incomplete. Many pages are missing, torn away by erosion, recycled by tectonic shifts. You read what remains, and you fill the gaps with imagination. That is paleontology in essence, reading a book with half its pages gone and still finding meaning. The metaphor helps us because our human minds crave stories. We understand chapters and pages. We know what it feels like to enter a narrative, to watch characters rise and fall. Dinosaurs fit that shape perfectly. They are not random bones. They are protagonists in a chapter of Earth's epic. And like all protagonists, they remind us of ourselves. But here is the explanation that matters: metaphors are not replacements for science. They are companions. When we say Earth is a book, we do not mean it literally. Rock is not paper. Time is not ink. But the metaphor allows us to feel scale, to grasp continuity, to sense the flow. It takes the cold language of numbers and warms it with story. Consider another metaphor. Imagine the Age of Dinosaurs as a symphony, not a single note, but a long movement of music, lasting 160 million years. The bass notes are the deep thuds of sauropod footsteps. The bright strings are the chirps of early birds. The percussion is volcanic eruptions, thunder rolling across plains. The silence is extinction pauses where instruments fall quiet. Listening to this symphony, we realize something no single creature plays alone. Each is part of the whole. The music rises and falls, themes return in new forms, variations echo across ages. And just as in music, the beauty lies not in permanence, but in flow. A note vanishes the instant it is played, yet it contributes to the song. Dinosaurs too vanished, but their part in the symphony remains essential. Now breathe again, in and out. Notice how the metaphor itself soothes, because music is something you already know. To compare deep time to a symphony is to bring the unreachable into your hands, to remind you that the vast can be felt through the familiar. There is another reason we lean on metaphor. It reminds us of humility. Without it, numbers become overwhelming. To hear that the Jurassic began 201 million years ago and ended 145 million years ago is impressive, but it does not move the heart. To imagine it as a chapter in a book or a movement in a symphony gives us a way to feel it, and feeling is often the first step toward understanding. Think of your own life for a moment. You have chapters too. Childhood, youth, the present you inhabit now. You have movements of music, bright days, quiet nights, storms, silences. In that sense, you are not separate from the Earth's book. You are a page in it. You are a note in its symphony. This is where the explanation deepens. By calling the Age of Dinosaurs a chapter, we acknowledge that it had a beginning and an end. By calling it a symphony, we acknowledge that it had themes and transitions. But unlike fiction, the Earth story is not written by an author. It is written by chance, by chemistry, by physics, by the unplanned unfolding of time. And yet, even without an author, it still feels like story. That is the paradox. Meaning emerges from process narrative, from nature. So when we use metaphors, we are not escaping reality, we are embracing it through another lens. We are saying this is too vast for bare numbers, so let us borrow the language of books, of music, of stories to carry it gently. As you lie here tonight listening, let this metaphor settle around you. Imagine your own life as one page in the book, one note in the music. Short perhaps, but no less real. Dinosaurs had their chapters, and they ended. We have ours, and it too will pass. But the book continues, the music flows, the earth keeps turning. Take a breath, in and out. Feel yourself as part of the story, part of the song, not the whole, but a necessary piece. And in that realization lies comfort. Because if life is a book, then even the smallest page matters. If it is a symphony, even the quietest note contributes. Dinosaurs remind us that greatness is not about lasting forever. It is about being part of the larger whole. Let us shift the scene once more. You have stood in a Jurassic forest, gazing upward at towering sauropods and listening to the hush of conifers. But now let us turn the picture sideways. Imagine that instead of standing on land, you are floating quietly in a shallow sea near the coast during the Cretaceous period about 80 million years ago. The water is warm, wrapping around you like a gentle blanket. Sunlight pierces the surface in golden shafts, scattering across drifting particles. Beneath your feet, if you had a place to stand, the seafloor is soft with silt and shells. You drift for a moment weightless, suspended in time. Then the shapes begin to appear. To your left, a school of fish moves like a single shimmering body, flashing silver as it turns. From deeper below, something larger, rises a mosasaur, immense and sleek, its jaws lined with teeth curved like scythes. It glides with confidence, a predator that knows the sea belongs to it. For a moment it passes close, and you feel the rush of its movement ripple the water around you. Then it is gone, vanishing into blue shadow. Closer to shore, plesiosaurs surface for breath. Their long necks break the waves like periscopes, their small heads darting back and forth before they dive again. Their flippers stir the sea with steady rhythm, carrying them into depths you cannot see. Above, pterosaurs skim the surface, their wings casting fleeting shadows, dipping down to snatch fish with practiced precision. Take a slow breath here, in and out, as you imagine this other world. You are not standing in a forest anymore. You are drifting in water, hearing the muffled sounds of a prehistoric ocean. The crash of waves on the shore blends with the low calls of distant dinosaurs, feeding on plants along the water's edge. The ecosystem feels layered alive from the depths to the sky. Now shift again, rise from the water, and step onto land. You find yourself in a wide coastal plain, grasses, not yet present, but low shrubs and flowering plants beginning to spread. Herds of hadrosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, graze near the shoreline, their broad mouths sweeping vegetation in rhythmic motions. Their calls rise and fall, deep resonant, perhaps echoing across miles. In the shadows of the nearby forest, another perspective waits a predator. The tyrannosaur stands almost still, its gaze fixed on the herd. Its breath moves in steady bursts, its tail balancing its weight. It does not rush, not yet. It waits. For in this world, patience is survival. And as you stand in this moment, you realize something: the Age of Dinosaurs was not one scene, not one picture frozen in time. It was thousands upon thousands of overlapping worlds. Oceans with mosasaurs, forests with sauropods, plains with hadrosaurs, polar regions with hardy species adapted to months of darkness. Each environment was its own stage, its own alternate perspective. Pause with me now. In and out. Notice how your imagination shifts as the view changes. Forest, ocean, plain, each is part of the same earth, yet each feels different. This is the gift of deep time variety, endless variety. Even perspective itself shifts. To us, dinosaurs are extraordinary, almost mythical, but to themselves they were ordinary. To a hadrosaur, the call of its herd was comfort. To a tyrannosaur, hunger was routine. To a plesiosaur, the rise and fall of tides was as normal as breathing. Our view is one of awe. Theirs was one of simple survival. And this invites a thought: how will the future see us? If some distant intelligence looks back on our time, will they see skyscrapers as wonders or merely as ordinary dwellings of a vanished age? Will they marvel at our cities the way we marvel at sauropods, not because they were extraordinary in their own time, but because they no longer exist? Take another breath, in and out. Let that reflection soften you. It reminds us that what feels everyday now may one day be extraordinary in memory. And what was ordinary then? The grazing of herds, the hunting of predators, the drift of fish has become legend for us. Perspective is always shifting. Let us shift once more into twilight. Picture a Cretaceous evening. The air cools, insects rise in clouds, and the silhouettes of dinosaurs stretch long against the setting sun. A small, feathered raptor crouches in the underbrush, its eyes glinting as it watches for movement. Not far away, mammals stir in the dusk, scavenging seeds and insects. Above, the first stars appear, though in constellations not quite like those we know. Here in this twilight, the world feels almost familiar. The stillness of evening, the hum of insects, the play of light and shadow, all are things you know. The dinosaurs move through them as naturally as deer or birds move through your world today. This is the final shift of perspective from the alien to the familiar. For the deeper you look, the more you realize the past is not entirely strange. It is built of the same rhythms of life that continue around you tonight. So rest in this image: oceans alive with reptiles, skies alive with wings, plains alive with herds, forests alive with giants. And beneath it, all the same earth, turning steadily, carrying each scene across millions of years. Alternate perspectives, shifting views, but one continuous home. Science gives us data. Philosophy gives us meaning. When we place the two together, we begin to sense not just what the age of dinosaurs was, but why it matters to us now. Tonight, let's weave these two threads into one fabric gently, without rushing, letting each stitch hold both fact and wonder. Start with a fossil. Science tells us it is bone turned to stone minerals, replacing cells over millions of years. It gives us measurements, length, weight, estimated age. But pause for a moment. What does philosophy whisper here? That this bone is a memory, that stone can carry life's imprint across time, that survival is not always about lasting in flesh, but about leaving a trace strong enough to echo. Take a breath, in and out. Notice how science explains the how, while philosophy asks the why. Together they deepen the story. Consider climate again. Science says the Mesozoic was warmer with higher carbon dioxide, no polar ice caps. Forests reached toward the poles and reptiles thrived in latitudes that today hold snow. That is fact, supported by rock records and fossil plants. But philosophy leans closer and asks, what does this mean for us? Perhaps it means Earth has always changed and always will. Perhaps it means we are part of a living planet that breathes in ages, not hours. The warmth that fed dinosaurs is not separate from the warmth we feel tonight. It is part of one long shifting rhythm. Now shift to ecosystems. Science shows us evidence of herds' trackways pressed into mud nests filled with fossilized eggs. It suggests behavior. Perhaps dinosaurs cared for their young, perhaps they traveled together. But philosophy asks, what does community mean across time? We humans think of ourselves as unique in cooperation, but fossils suggest care, and connection existed long before us. Perhaps life has always leaned toward relationship, toward networks that make survival possible. Pause again, in and out. Let that thought sink gently, that we are not alone in valuing togetherness. The Earth has always been weaving relationships, even in ages when no humans walked. Think of extinction. Science explains it with evidence: an asteroid impact, volcanic eruptions, climate collapse, iridium layers, craters, lava flows. But philosophy steps in with the harder question: what does it mean to end? Is extinction a failure, or is it simply transition dinosaurs did not lose? Their passing opened doors for mammals, for birds, for us. Endings can be beginnings. Loss can be transformation. The two are threads of the same fabric. Now, imagine your own life in this weaving. Science tells you that your body is atoms, your breath is oxygen, and carbon dioxide exchanged in steady rhythm. But philosophy adds, you are not only atoms, you are story. Your presence is meaning carried forward just as dinosaurs' bones carry their memory. You are a chapter, not just matter. Take another breath, in and out. Feel yourself as both fact and meaning, cells and story, science and philosophy. This interweaving matters because one without the other feels incomplete. Science without philosophy can feel cold, a list of numbers with no warmth. Philosophy without science can feel ungrounded, a cloud with no anchor. Together they create balance, fact supported by meaning, meaning guided by fact. Consider the night sky. Science says those points of light are stars, nuclear furnaces burning at unimaginable distances. Philosophy says they are reminders of mystery symbols, of eternity guides for the wandering heart. Both are true. Both are needed. So too with dinosaurs. Science says they were reptiles of the Mesozoic, diverse, successful, ultimately extinct, except for their bird descendants. Philosophy says they are giants in our imagination, mirrors for our mortality, companions in humility. Both are true. Both are needed. Let's weave one more thread. Science tells us time is linear, measured in millions of years. Philosophy suggests time is felt, not only measured, When you listen to rain at night, you feel connected to rain that fell millions of years ago. That is not measurement but meaning, and yet the two together give a fuller truth. Rain is both a cycle of molecules and a cycle of memory. Pause here. In and out. Notice how calm it feels to accept both. You do not have to choose between data and wonder. The Earth has always carried both. And perhaps that is the deepest interweaving, the recognition that reality itself holds fact and meaning together. A fossil is stone, yes, but it is also a story. A dinosaur is a species, yes, but it is also a metaphor for impermanence, for grandeur, for the passage of time. As you rest tonight, let this weave settle over you like a blanket. Feel the texture of it. Threads of science, threads of philosophy crossing gently. It does not need to be perfect. It does not need to be finished. It is enough that it holds you softly, reminding you that the age of dinosaurs was both knowledge and mystery fact, and meaning science and philosophy. And so the question, what was Earth like during the age of dinosaurs, does not have one answer. It is many layered and woven. It was forests and fossils, bones and myths, ecosystems and extinctions. It was also a mirror for us, a reminder that life is both matter and meaning. We have travelled far together through forests of conifers, across shallow seas into myths and metaphors, into questions of science and philosophy. The story of the dinosaurs is vast, and sometimes the mind needs a pause. So now let's take this moment not to learn, not to imagine further, but simply to breathe. A deliberate pause, a guided rest. Wherever you are right now, let your body settle. Notice the surface supporting you, the mattress, the chair, the couch. Let yourself feel its weight steady and reliable, like the ground beneath a dinosaur's step. The earth held them. It holds you too. Close your eyes if you wish. If not, simply soften your gaze. Begin with your breath. Inhale gently through your nose. Hold for a heartbeat. Exhale slowly through your mouth. Again, inhale, hold, exhale. Each cycle loosens the day's tension. Each breath is an anchor, reminding you that you are here safe. Now, bring your awareness to your shoulders. Are they tight, heavy? Let them fall like branches relaxing after a storm. Let your arms grow softer, your hands resting without effort. Imagine the weight flowing out of them into the ground, as if the earth itself is holding you. Move to your jaw. Notice if you are clenching. Gently let it loosen. Part your lips just slightly enough to ease the muscles. Feel how even this small release creates space. Take another breath. In and out. With each exhale, imagine the worries of the day drifting away like leaves carried downstream. You don't need to chase them. Just let them float. Now notice your chest. Feel the rise and fall as you breathe. Think of the great sauropods, their massive bodies rising, with each inhale falling with each exhale. Their rhythm was slow, steady, timeless. Let yours match that gentleness. You are breathing with them across millions of years. Shift your attention downward to your stomach. Place a hand there if it feels comfortable. Feel the quiet expansion as you breathe in, the release as you breathe out. Your body is not separate from the earth. It is earth remembering itself in flesh. Now your legs. Heavy, supported. Imagine them sinking slightly, as if roots are growing from your body into the ground, steady, unshakable. You are part of the landscape. You belong. Finally, your feet. Notice where they rest. Imagine warmth spreading from them upward, a slow glow that travels through your body, filling you with calm. From toes to head, your whole being is now softened, resting, present. Pause here, in and out. Let silence wrap you for a moment. As you rest, let's add a gentle layer of imagery. Imagine you are lying beneath the night sky of the Cretaceous period. The stars above are familiar, yet slightly shifted. The air is warmer, fragrant, with plants not yet known to us. In the distance, a herd of hadrosaurs murmurs softly, their calls low and rhythmic, blending with the chirp of insects. You are safe, watching from stillness cradled by time itself. A breeze stirs the leaves. The air brushes your skin like a whisper. Each sound is slow, unhurried, timeless. The earth is breathing, and you are breathing with it. Take another breath, in and out. Notice how the body responds. Slower heartbeat, softer muscles, heavier eyelids. You are not forcing relaxation. You are allowing it the way a forest allows rain to sink into its soil. If thoughts wander, let them. If images appear, dinosaurs, forests, oceans, or even tomorrow's tasks, let them drift like clouds across the sky of your mind. You do not need to chase or control them. Simply notice, then return to your breath. Now, let's lengthen the exhale. Inhale to a count of 4, hold for a count of 2, exhale to a count of 6. Again, inhale 1, 2, 3, 4, hold 1, 2, exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This rhythm calms the nervous system, inviting deeper rest. As you continue, imagine each exhale carrying tension away, not just from today, but from weeks, months, years. With each release, you grow lighter. With each breath, you are more present. And here is the quiet truth: you do not need to carry everything. Just as the earth sheds, leaves, shifts, continents, lets mountains rise and erode, you too can let go. You too can rest. Take one more deep breath, in and out. Feel the calm expand through you. You are safe. You are held. Let the pause linger. This is not wasted time. This is part of the story. Even dinosaurs paused, lying down in meadows, sleeping beneath stars, breathing slowly through nights. Rest is as ancient as life itself. By resting now, you are joining that timeless rhythm. We have walked through many paths: the science of fossils and geology, the myths of dragons and giants, the philosophy of impermanence, the guided pauses of breath and stillness. Each has been its own thread, separate yet shimmering. Now let us soften them together, weaving a gentle tapestry, a synthesis not meant to close the story, but to hold it lightly in your hands. Begin with science. It tells us the age of dinosaurs was real, lasting more than 160 million years. Rocks and bones bear witness footprints pressed into ancient mud teeth scattered across riverbeds. Eggs turned to stone. These are facts as solid as the cliffs that guard them. Science shows us climate patterns, continental drift, the rise of flowering plants. It paints a picture careful and detailed, reminding us that dinosaurs were not fantasy, but living, breathing creatures. Now add myth. Long before paleontology, people stumbled upon bones too large to fit into familiar categories. They imagined dragons, titans, thunderbirds. These stories were not wrong. They were translations, attempts to make sense of the extraordinary. Where science offers data, myth offers symbol. A dragon guarding treasure might be in another language. A fossil guarding memory. A giant in a story might be the echo of a sauropod's femur lying hidden in a hill. Take a breath, in and out. Notice how the threads do not compete, they complement. Then comes philosophy, standing between science and myth. It asks, what does this mean for us? Dinosaurs remind us of scale, how small our time is compared to theirs. They remind us of impermanence, that even greatness fades. They remind us of continuity, that life transforms rather than disappears. Philosophy does not demand certainty. It sits with the questions. What is it to be brief? What is it to belong to a story larger than yourself? Finally, bring yourself into the weave. You listening now, with your breath, your senses, your presence. You carry memories of pine forests, the sound of rain, the glow of moonlight. These are sensory bridges to deep time. Through them, the Age of Dinosaurs is not only an abstract chapter, it is a felt reality close enough to touch in imagination. Picture this tapestry. Science is the sturdy warp, the vertical threads of evidence, structure, and record. Myth is the weft of color, bright strands, weaving patterns of meaning. Philosophy is the rhythm of the loom, the gentle hand guiding threads into harmony. And you are the viewer, the listener, the one who leans close and lets the patterns speak. Together they form something whole, not a complete answer, but a fabric strong enough to rest upon. Pause here, in and out. Let that fabric settle over you like a blanket woven of time and story. What do we see in this synthesis? We see that the age of dinosaurs was not only about creatures long gone, it was about Earth itself, always changing, always holding life in new forms. It was about human imagination, always seeking meaning in what it finds. And it was about you alive now, still wondering, still listening. Science without myth would give us bones, but no dragons. Myth without science would give us dragons, but no bones. Philosophy without either would give us questions without anchors. Together, they create balance, each thread strengthening the others. Consider again the fossil. In scientific terms, it is mineralized bone calcium replaced by stone dated by isotopes. In mythic terms, it is a giant's relic, a dragon's rib. In philosophy, it is a reminder of impermanence, of how even life can turn into stone and yet still speak. And for you personally, it may be a moment of wonder standing in a museum, hand pressed against glass eyes wide. All four truths coexist. None cancels the others. Take another breath. In and out. Notice how gentle that feels to accept layers, not contradictions. This is why synthesis matters. The world is not simple. It is layered like rock strata. Each layer adds to the whole, and the whole is richer than any single part. Dinosaurs lived in a layered world too, forests above soil, oceans above stone, skies above land. We live in the same. The weave continues. And perhaps that is the final soft lesson of synthesis. We do not need to choose between science and story, fact and meaning, knowledge and wonder. We can hold them all as the earth itself holds mountains and seas, forests and deserts, storms and calm. Dinosaurs were real, yes. They were also legendary. They were also symbolic. They were also ordinary. All at once. As you rest tonight, let this tapestry wrap around you. Feel its threads. Solid science, vivid myth-searching, philosophy, personal reflection. Let them soften the edges of your mind, reminding you that the age of dinosaurs is not gone. It lives in stone, in story, in symbol, in your breath. And tomorrow, when you see a bird lift into the air, remember the tapestry continues. The weave has not ended. Dinosaurs are still with us, feathered and singing, part of the same story, part of the same earth. Every story, no matter how vast, needs a soft moment of transition, a threshold between the wide landscapes we have travelled and the quiet place where we will rest. Tonight we have walked through millions of years, through forests and seas, myths and science, philosophy and imagination, and now gently we begin to prepare to leave. Not abruptly, but slowly, as one might step out of a cathedral after lingering long inside. Think of a doorway. Behind it lies the Jurassic Forest. You walked through the Cretaceous Sea with its swimming mosasaurs, the myths of dragons, the metaphors of books and symphonies. Before it lies the present moment, your room, your bed, the hum of ordinary life. Crossing the threshold does not erase one world or the other. It simply carries you between them softly. Pause here, in and out. Feel your own body in this moment. You are the threshold too, 1 foot in imagination, 1 foot in reality. Both are true, both are yours. As we approach this crossing, let us look back gently, not to summarize facts, but to honor the mood of what we have touched. We have seen that dinosaurs were not only creatures of spectacle, but of ordinariness, grazers, sleepers, breathers, living their days as naturally as you live yours. We have felt that myths were not wrong, but poetic, filling silence with meaning. We have learned that science is not cold but steady, guiding us with evidence while leaving space for wonder. And we have recognized that philosophy invites humility, reminding us that time is larger than we are, and yet we belong to it. The threshold is not an ending, it is a gathering. Like packing belongings before a journey home, we gather the feelings, the lessons, the images. They will travel with us. The pine forests of the Jurassic, the glittering shells of ammonites, the thunder of footsteps across plains, they are not gone when the story pauses. They are folded into memory, waiting for you whenever you wish to return. Take another breath, in and out. Notice how each inhale feels like stepping forward, each exhale like setting something down. With each breath, you carry what matters and release what does not. Imagine now that you are holding a lantern. Its light is soft, golden, steady. Behind you, the forest darkens. Ahead, the present brightens. The lantern is your curiosity, your wonder. It does not vanish when you cross the threshold. It simply illuminates whichever side you face. The same light that helped you wander through deep time will help you see your own life more clearly. Crossing this threshold is also about pace. We do not leap. We do not rush. We step slowly, lingering on the details. The coolness of stone underfoot. The hush of wind through imaginary branches. The warmth of your blanket in the real world. Both blend for a moment, and you are between them. That is the beauty of transition. It allows us to belong to more than one place at once. And perhaps this is what the dinosaurs teach us too. They lived their vast chapter, and then they crossed their own threshold into memory. Their bodies turned to fossils, their presence to myth, their lineage into birds. They did not disappear entirely, they transformed. Crossing is always transformation, never erasure. Pause again. In and out. Let this truth soften you. Now look inward. What have you carried from this journey? Maybe it is a sense of humility at the scale of time. Maybe it is a surprising comfort in knowing that impermanence is natural. Maybe it is simply a calm rhythm in your breath, the steady heartbeat of Earth itself. Whatever it is, let it settle. You do not need to hold all of it. One image, one feeling, one thought is enough. As you step closer to the threshold, imagine turning back one last time. The forest is there glowing in twilight. The seas shimmer with ancient life. The sky echoes with the wings of pterosaurs. They will remain patient, waiting for your imagination to return. You bow gently as one bows when leaving a sacred place. Not because the story demands reverence, but because your heart feels it. And then you turn forward. Ahead lies your present world, the hum of your room, the steady pulse of your own breath. The threshold is here waiting for you to cross when you are ready. Take one more deep breath, in and out. Feel your body where it rests. The mattress, the pillow, the chair. They are steady, real, holding you now. The dinosaurs fade into memory, not gone but quiet. You remain warm, safe, carried gently by time. This is the crossing of the threshold. It is not abrupt. It is not final. It is simply the moment when you begin to bring the story home with you, folded like a note in your pocket, to be opened again whenever you wish. We began our journey with a question: what was Earth like during the Age of Dinosaurs? Now, after wandering through forests and seas, myths and science reflections and pauses, we return to it again. Not to answer it completely, because some questions resist final answers, but to see how it feels now after the journey we have taken together. Close your eyes if you like, and let the words settle around you. Remember that first moment we asked the question. It may have felt large, intimidating, almost impossible to hold. Dinosaurs lived so long ago in worlds so different that the question seemed ungraspable. But now, after traveling slowly through time and thought, the question feels gentler. It feels less like a demand for facts and more like an invitation to wonder. Take a breath, in and out. Notice how the question itself has softened in your mind. What was Earth like? Science gave us details: continents drifting apart, climates, warm and humid forests of conifers, seas filled with marine reptiles, skies alive with wings. These are real, supported by rock and fossil, testable and steady. They tell us that the Age of Dinosaurs was not fantasy but fact. What was Earth like? Myth gave us symbols: dragons, giants, creatures of thunder and flame. These arose when ancient people found bones and sought meaning. Myths remind us that imagination has always been part of how we know the world. They show us that even when facts were scarce, wonder was abundant. What was Earth like? Philosophy gave us reflection that time is vast, that impermanence is natural, that even the greatest reigns must end. Dinosaurs remind us of humility, that we are brief, but also part of a continuing story. Their extinction, though dramatic, was also transformation. From them came birds, and from their absence came space for us. And what was Earth like? Personally, it felt strangely familiar. The sound of rain, the smell of pine, the rhythm of breath, all are as ancient as the dinosaurs. By noticing our own senses, we found bridges across millions of years. The past is not unreachable. It lingers in the ordinary moments of our own lives. Pause here, in and out. Let that synthesis settle softly. Returning to the central question does not mean pinning down one perfect answer. It means accepting that the answer has many layers. Earth during the Age of Dinosaurs was scientific and mythical, factual and symbolic, strange and familiar, gone and yet still here. All of these truths coexist. None cancels the others. And perhaps this is why the question matters so much. Because it teaches us that understanding does not always mean choosing. It sometimes means holding many perspectives at once. To say dinosaurs were reptiles of the Mesozoic is true. To say dinosaurs are dragons in our imagination is also true. To say dinosaurs remind us of impermanence is true as well. Each belongs to the larger whole. So what was Earth like during the Age of Dinosaurs? It was vibrant. It was immense. It was ordinary for those who lived then, and extraordinary for us who look back. It was a stage of forests, seas, skies, and creatures that carried life forward in forms we still echo. It was a world where rain fell, winds blew, and the moon shone just as they do tonight. Take another breath. In and out. Notice how even now the question does not close. It lingers gently like a soft chord at the end of a song. And maybe that is the final comfort, that some questions are not meant to be finished. They are meant to return again and again, each time offering a new shade of meaning. Tonight, the question has been your companion into rest. Another night it might spark curiosity or humility or simply calm. It is generous that way. As you drift towards sleep, hold the question softly in your mind. Do not grip it. Do not force an answer. Let it be like a feather resting lightly, reminding you that you are part of a story too large to see all at once, but beautiful enough to feel in glimpses. This is the open conclusion, not a period, but an ellipsis. A reminder that Earth has worn many costumes, lived many ages, and will live many more. Dinosaurs were one chapter. We are another. The story continues. As we near the final steps of this long wandering, let us pause together in a quieter way. The story of the Age of Dinosaurs has carried us across oceans of time and through forests of imagination. Now the story becomes personal again, not with new facts or scenes, but with an invitation to reflect, to rest, and if you wish to share, take a breath, in and out. Let your shoulders soften. Notice the gentle weight of the present moment, how the air feels against your skin, how the ground holds you. This is where you are right now, and yet through story you have also been far away. Both are true. Both belong. Reflection begins simply. Ask yourself what lingered with you tonight. Was it the towering sauropods brushing the canopy with their necks? Was it the shimmer of ammonites drifting in ancient seas? Was it the thought of myths, dragons, and giants that grew out of bones in the earth? Or was it something smaller, the reminder that rain today is the same as rain that once fell on dinosaurs' backs? Whatever it was, hold it gently. It does not need to be profound. It does not need to be complete. Even a single image, a single breath of wonder is enough. That is how reflection works. It is not about answers. It is about noticing what remains with you after the words fade. And now comes the quiet invitation. If this journey brought you calm or sparked a thought or simply helped you drift a little closer to sleep, you might consider leaving behind a small trace, a like, a subscription, perhaps even a comment sharing what you imagined most vividly. These are not demands. They are lanterns in windows, signals that help others find this same quiet path. Think of it this way, just as fossils are traces left by creatures long gone. Your small act of engagement is a trace left for others, a footprint in digital stone, a gentle signal that says, I was here, and this story mattered to me. And someone else arriving tired or restless may see it and think, perhaps this story will help me too. Pause again, in and out. Notice how even this thought feels unhurried. There is no pressure, no urgency, only invitation. Reflection is also about noticing yourself in the story. The dinosaurs lived their vast chapter and are gone. We live ours now, brief but luminous. One day others will look back at us. What traces will we leave? Not just fossils, but stories, songs, small kindnesses. Each act, like a footprint, matters. Each breath is part of the larger flow. And so, the gentle call to action is not only about this video or this channel, it is about your life as part of Earth's story. Reflect on how you walk through your own days. What are the small ways you care for the world around you? What are the quiet traces you leave for those who will come after? Take another breath, in and out. Let the question sit softly. No rush to answer. Just hold it. When you are ready, you might also share your reflections with others. Perhaps a simple comment, "The sound of rain on ferns stayed with me," or "I imagined the stars above a Cretaceous plain." These small sharings create community, a gathering of listeners across time zones, each carrying a different image, yet all walking the same path of curiosity and calm. Think of that for a moment. Someone far away, perhaps across the ocean, listening as you are now. Their eyes grow heavy, their breath slows, their mind drifts through the same forests and seas. You do not know them, but you are connected, both carried by the same story. That too is reflection. That too is action. So here is the gentle CTA. If this story soothed you, let it be known, not for me alone, but for the next traveler seeking rest. A like, a subscription, a comment, they are not chores, they are gifts. They are the way we build lanterns for each other in the night. Take one last breath here, in and out. Let your body grow heavier, your mind quieter. You have traveled far tonight. The age of dinosaurs was immense, but you have carried it lightly, step by step, until now. Reflection is the final step, the one that brings the story home. Hold this thought as you drift. You are part of Earth's story just as much as the dinosaurs were. You are living your chapter, leaving your trace. That is enough. That is beautiful. Every journey, even one that wanders through millions of years, eventually arrives at a resting place. Tonight we have walked together through the age of dinosaurs, through forests alive, with giant seas glittering with reptiles, skies filled with wings. We have listened to myths, woven metaphors, paused for breath, and reflected on meaning. And now we arrive at the final threshold. Not an ending, but a soft pause before the next beginning. Take a breath, in and out. Let the weight of this story settle gently around you. You have traveled far, yet you are exactly where you began, resting, listening, held by the earth. That is the gift of these journeys. They carry you outward and inward at the same time. Before we close, let us linger in gratitude. Gratitude for the creatures who lived so long ago, leaving traces in stone. Gratitude for the scientists, storytellers, and dreamers who help us piece together their world. Gratitude for yourself for choosing to slow down, to listen, to wonder. In a world that rushes, your willingness to pause is a rare and beautiful thing. Now, as this chapter folds, we look ahead. For Earth's story did not end with the dinosaurs. Their extinction opened new doors. Doors for mammals, for birds, for forests that looked more like the ones we know today, and eventually doors for us. Imagine just for a moment the world after the asteroid. The skies darkened with ash, the forests quiet, the great herds gone. Slowly life returned. Tiny mammals emerged from burrows. Birds filled the air with song. Flowers spread across plains. It was a different Earth, yet still the same planet, still breathing, still carrying life forward. That perhaps will be our next journey, to step into the world after the dinosaurs, to ask what rose in the silence they left behind. Pause here, in and out. Notice how even a glimpse of the next story brings curiosity. Not urgency, just a gentle wondering. And there are so many other journeys waiting. We might wander back to the age when the first humans stood upright and gazed at fire, or drift further still to the birth of oceans when the earth was young and strange. Or perhaps forward into speculative futures, asking what Earth might become long after us. Each question is its own lantern waiting to be lit. So here is your gentle teaser tonight. We walked among dinosaurs. Next time, perhaps, we will walk in the shadow of their absence, exploring the age when mammals began their quiet rise. The story will not roar with drama. It will hum with resilience, with small creatures learning to thrive in a changed world. And from their resilience eventually comes us. Take another breath, in and out. Let that thought soften your body as you sink deeper into rest. This is the rhythm of these journeys, one question leading to another, one story blending into the next. We never truly end. We only pause, carry what we have learned, and step forward when we are ready. And so, as you drift towards sleep, let the promise of another journey be a comfort. You do not need to hold it tightly. It will be here when you return. Like the fossils in stone, like the rain on leaves, like the stars above every age, the stories wait patiently. Now feel your body where it rests. The pillow beneath your head, the steady support of the mattress or chair, the warmth of your blanket. All of it is real, immediate, grounding you in the present. The dinosaurs fade into memory, but you remain safe and still. One last breath together, in and out. Let your eyes grow heavy. Let your thoughts grow slow. The journey is complete for tonight. But remember, another begins soon. Another doorway, another threshold, another soft question waiting in the dark. Until then, may your rest be deep, your dreams gentle, and your curiosity steady. Good night.